Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, students. How are you doing today? We hope that you would remember our discussions on supply, what we had just before the weekend. And good to see that few students have already read the material on this chapter and they have responded that yes, they found it very easy. That's a very good signal. Very good. We will continue our session for today. So is there any queries or any doubts you have from the previous session? Because we will continue from our understanding what we had in the previous session. So if anything is missed, you could please ask now so that we could get into it and discuss it now. Okay, so Ishan is saying as goods do not include money and securities, and 7.2 with schedule 2 talks about what is not goods. So what is your question exactly, Ishan? So what I understand from your question is goods does not include money and securities. Yes. So any transaction in money security is outside GST. So that's the understanding what we get from exclusion from goods. So what is GST leviable on? We said there are three components. One is there should be a supply of goods or services. Second is there should be a consideration. And third is it should be it should be in the course or furtherance of business. So if it is not any of these three things, then it is not a supply under section 7, right? So if money and securities are outside from the scope of goods, then there is no, it's not a supply itself and GST will not be applicable on it. So Darshan is saying, read this chapter till what we have completed and found it very easy. Very good. That's good. Kiran Shukla, you are asking what is your question in context with? Could you please elaborate that? Okay, so we'll just recap for the benefit of those students who had missed the last class. So what we basically discussed is on supply. So we said that what is the taxable event under previous laws and what is the taxable event in GST law. In GST, the taxable event is supply. Okay, then we went and understood the meaning of supply. We went through the definition which is given in section 7. So what does section 7 say? Is what we understood line by line. Section 7 says supply includes all forms of supply of goods or services or both, such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, or disposal, which is made or agreed to be made. So any transaction which is made or which will be done in the future, both are covered. So that is the first aspect. Second is it should be for a consideration. And third is it should be in the course or furtherance of business, right? Then 7.1AA said that activities between a club and its members, association and its members is also a supply. Then 7.1B said exclusion or a kind of exception from the main 7.1A. So 7.1B said that if you're importing, okay, for a consideration, whether or not in the course of business is also a supply. So first part we said that it should be in the course of furtherance of business. But in case of import, if it is not in the course of furtherance of business, also it is a supply. Okay. And third aspect is Schedule 1. So this gives correlation from consideration, saying that we said all transactions should have consideration, but specified transactions in Schedule 1 should, if it is without consideration and which is specifically specified in Schedule 1. So without consideration, such transactions also will be deemed as a supply. So that is 7.1A, AA, B, and C. Then we discussed on 7.1A. Okay, what that is giving a reference to Schedule 2. Schedule 2 gives you what? It gives a classification of what is supply of goods and what is supply of services. Okay, so that is basically Schedule 2. Then comes to Schedule 3, wherein non-GST supply or no supply transactions are specified in Schedule 3, or it could be notified, or which are generally public activities, the government services will all get covered under no supply categories. So that is what is 7.1.1A2, and 7.3 said the government has power to specify on with the recommendation of the council that what are the transactions to be treated as supply of goods, not supply of services, and not supply of goods. So those were our understanding. We understood the parameters of supply, right? Then we understood the definition of goods and services. Goods means every kind of mobile property, but excludes money and securities, but it includes actionable claim and growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming part of the land, which are agreed to be severed. Then services is what? Services is anything other than goods. Okay, anything other than goods is services, and it includes use of money. So we said money and securities are excluded from goods and services and both, but any use of money or conversion of money by cash to one form to another form, that is all treated as service. Then 8 terms, we understood this 8 terms in detail. We understood some examples. What is the important considerations to be noted down for a consideration? We took up some clarifications. We understood what is business. Then some practical examples in business. We covered Schedule 1. So we were in part of the Schedule 1. We understood the definition of related supply. So supply between related persons is treated as supply even without consideration, because this part, supply between related or distinct persons, is coming under where? Is coming under Schedule 1. So here we had, I'm just highlighted one red thing over here because there was some confusion over here, wherein we said that what happens in case of stock transfers between distinct persons? Will it qualify as supply? Yes, it will qualify as supply, but strong stock transfers within the state will not be considered as a supply when only if there is one registration. Like in one state, we had taken an example of I'm having a main head office in Bangalore and a branch in Mysore. Okay, so these two cities are within the same state, and if I've taken one registration, then any stock transfer between them will not be treated as a supply. Okay, this will not be treated as supply because it's only one registration. It's like transfer from my own self to my another location. But if you have separate registrations, then it will be treated as a supply. So this is what we had discussed here. Then principal agent relationship and import of services. This is where we had stopped. So we'll continue from here. Before this, there are some questions. Is it necessary to remember the subsection and clause numbers, at least for section 7, because 7 and 16 and 17, 7, 16 and 17, these three are important sections. So for 7, 16 and 17 and even 9, sorry, 4 sections, 7, 9, 16 and 17. For these, if you remember the subsections, it becomes easy to connect. For others, you don't have to remember, but you at least have to pay attention to them. Okay, Kiran Shukla, your question is on page number 2.19. Okay, let me just open the 2.19. Okay, so in 2.19, it says incidental or ancillary. In the course or furtherance of business, okay, then you have incidental or ancillary. Any activity, any trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, even if there is no monetary benefit, and any activity incidental or ancillary to it. Okay, so what does the word incidental or ancillary mean? Anything which is done in relation to the business. Okay, so anything like before formation of the company itself, you will do a lot of pre-incorporation expenses, right? You will engage a lawyer, you will engage a consultant, you will engage a valuer to do the valuation of whether the business is viable. So this is all incidental activities. By engaging a lawyer, are you doing the business today? You're not doing, but you're engaging him to do a business for the future. So these are treated as incidental activities. And ancillary means not part of the main activity, but sub activity. So that is ancillary activities. Like you have main manufacturing unit, you are into main manufacturing. Now in the process of manufacturing, you engage a job worker, right? And you pay some job worker charges. So giving the work to the job worker is not your primary activity, but in the process of your manufacturing, you are giving some work to the job worker. So this is a ancillary activity, okay, which is not the main activity, but connected and co-joined to the main activity is called as a ancillary activity. Clear? Okay. So if you are getting buy one, get one offer on import of goods, then how GST will be applicable? Means on both goods or at once. So if it is buy one, get one offer on import of goods, then the value will be charged on only one and the other product will come in. So it is considered that the price what is being charged by the seller, foreign exporter, is inclusive for both, and you're paying only value of say 100 rupees for 1 plus 1. So what is the value for both the goods put together? It is 100 rupees. So you will pay customs duty on 100 as well as GST on the 100 rupees itself. Okay. What is the meaning of actionable claim? Actionable claim means any right over something is called as an actionable claim. So if I have a typical example, what we give is an example of a lottery ticket. So when I buy a lottery ticket, not everybody has an actionable claim, right? Everybody has a chance to win it, but the number which triggers is the person's ticket who's having the ticket. He has a right to claim his prize amount, right? So he has an actionable claim against the lottery company to lodge his claim and get the amount. So that is an actionable claim. Recovery from your debtors is also an actionable claim. Okay, so these are various examples of actionable claim wherein you have a right to claim a transaction or to claim some money from the other party. So these are various examples of actionable claim. In our schedule 3, we'll understand that whether all actionable claims is treated as goods, so whether all is liable to GST or only some items are liable to GST. Okay. It is given in revision capsule of ICAI provided that supply is not identifiable at the time of issue of voucher and it is a date of redemption of voucher. Yeah. So when you discuss date and time of supply, okay, time and place of supply, you will understand what happens in case of a voucher. Please upload current IT notes. Please upload this PPT. Yes, this PPT is already shared. It will be uploaded shortly. If transfer is between head office in one state, so to subdivision in another state within one registration, Divyanshi, it is not possible that you have one registration in two states. So GST doesn't give you a provision to register for one registration with two states. That is not possible. So you have to have one registration in one state and a separate registration in another state. Okay. So if you are having registration in this state and another state, you have another registration. So this supply will be treated as supply. This transfer will be treated as supply covered under Schedule 1. And another scenario will be that where you have taken a registration in this state and other state you don't have registration. Still, any transfer outside the state will always be treated as a distinct person, that will always be treated as a supply and liable to GST. Okay, now importation of service. Schedule 1 is saying that import of services, the fourth clause says that import of services without consideration by a person, okay, okay, it says import of services by a person from a related person or from his establishment located outside India in the course or furtherance of business. So what is Schedule 1 saying? Schedule 1 is saying the following transactions, even if there is no transaction, I will levy GST on you. So in this fourth item says import of services without consideration by a person from a related person. So whose establishment outside India. It means if there is a company in India and it has a kind of a related person, we understood the definition of related person in a previous session. So if it is having any associate company or holding company outside India and any transaction from there to India, even if there is no consideration, will be treated as supply. What does this mean? This means that any kind of a cross charge or any kind of a common services which they are taking outside India and they're providing to Indian company. So even if there is no consideration, it will be treated as supply. Okay. And then there is also one section which we read in 7.1b, wherein we said that import of services, whether or not in the course or furtherance of business, is covered as supply, but there has to be a consideration, right? So this is a little confusing. That's why I put it in a table so that we can understand it clearly. The first scenario is import of services. All of this is import of services itself. In first case, there is a consideration which is present, okay, and it is in the course or furtherance of business. It will get covered under 7.1a because both the conditions are satisfied. There is a consideration and it is in the course of furtherance of business, so taxable. Second scenario, where there is a consideration which is present, but it is not in the course or furtherance of business, that is also taxable because 7.1b specifically said that when you import any services and consideration is present, but even if it is not in the course of furtherance of business, it is taxable. Fine. Then come to a scenario where consideration is closed. Now there is no consideration scenario. There is import of services. Consideration is not there. Consideration is not present, but it is in the course or furtherance of business. Will it be taxable or no? This Schedule 1, Clause 4 says that this point is what is relevant for us to answer this. Okay. This will be taxable. When it will be taxable? It will be taxable if it is from related person or his establishment located outside India. So if it is not from a related person, then even if it is in the course of furtherance of business, it will not be taxable. It will be only when taxable when consideration is not present and it is in the course of furtherance of business, when in only one scenario, if it is from a related person or his establishment located outside India. Then other last scenario is where consideration is not present and it is not in the course or furtherance of business, like any free downloads, what we do, right? There is no payment which I make and it is not in the course of my business, then also it is not taxable. Okay, clear with this? Sir, in one PAN, can we register two GST numbers in two different states? Yes, in one PAN, we can register for two GST numbers from two different states. We can register for one PAN in same state, also two registration. That is also possible. Repeat third one. Okay, third scenario is when I do import of service, there is a consideration which is not there. So I'm not paying anything now. So import of services without consideration, but it is in the course or furtherance of business, it will be taxable in only one scenario if the supplier and receiver are related person or establishments located outside India. So if you have a branch outside India and the branch is providing some services to you, or you have a associate entity or related entity, then it will be taxable. Okay, so that is the point 3. And in case of last point, consideration is not present and it is not in the course of furtherance of business, then it will not be taxable. Okay, great. So next, supplies without consideration. We saw in Schedule 1, even if there's no consideration, it would be treated as a supply, right? So only one Schedule 1 covers this. Schedule 1 covers those 4 activities. Now, what happens in case of sales promotion schemes? Whether all are taxable or not is a very doubtful case, because in my sale promotion, there is no consideration. Now, various creative schemes are there where sales promotion can happen. So that's why there is a circular. Circular comes to give clarification across trade. So circulars also are not like theoretical. They see the practical scenarios and then they come up. So the government will see that practically that various industries are facing some challenges. So they will come up with some clarification. So first clarification, what they came up is with respect to free samples. So what happens in case of free samples? They do not qualify a supply. Why? Because there is no consideration. So then what will happen if there is no supply, no GST? Correct. But you'll have to see the complete chain. You know the chain now, right? Supplier supplies to you, you are buyer, and you are then selling. So you are getting the credit because you are supplying something. But in case of free samples, okay, like medical samples or some kind of products at the first level, they cannot bring it to the market. So they will give as free samples to few customers. They will see what is their response. They will take their feedback and then they will sell it. So on this free samples, didn't they buy it? They did buy it, right? They bought it, paid input tax credit, and they've claimed it. So the government is saying, okay, when you bought, you have claimed the credit. Now, when you're not selling it, then why should I get the credit? So you have to reverse the input tax credit. So input tax credit needs to be reversed in case of a free sample. Why? Because there is no outward supply. There's outward movement of goods, but there is no consideration which is coming. So if there's no consideration, you're not paying GST. So you don't pay GST on your outward, understandable, but you should not claim the input tax credit. So this will also be discussed to you in your input tax credit chapter. Fine. Then there is another kind of sales promotion which happens, which is buy one, get one schemes. Like somebody was asking, what happens in case of buy one, get one of importation? Similarly, in local transactions also, I may come up with some schemes. And I may tell that buy one, get one schemes are there. So what will it be treated? It will be either treated as a composite supply or a mixed supply. So we will discuss composite supply or mixed supply in kind of some at the last part of this session. But understand that when I'm doing buy one, get one supply, I am charging for value of one goods and I'm supplying two goods. Like the value of first good is say 500 rupees. I will tell buy for 500 rupees and get one more free. So does it mean the other is free and I have to reverse the input tax credit? Government is saying, no, don't do that reversal of input tax credit. We will consider that you have taken note of the price of the second also in the first itself. Nobody gives practically for free. So it's only a scheme, right? So you're basically adding the value of both the goods put together and charging them one value. So we will treat that the value of both the goods put together is this. So no need of any reversal of input tax credit because there is at least consideration for at least half of the consideration, half of this, half of that. So any consideration is fine. That is fine. So you don't have to reverse the input tax credit. Input here means input tax credit. Yes, input here means input tax credit. Clear on this? Okay, then we are coming to 7.1a, which is a classification schedule, right? Why is classification required? Because we have to classify whether it's good or services to check whether what is the rate to apply. Okay, GST is one tax for all, but the rate of goods and services is different. Okay, you have a separate rate for goods and you have separate rate for services. So it becomes important to categorize the supply as goods or services, like rate on job work. Okay, what is job work services? Job work is a service. You are giving goods only. The job worker will do some kind of work on it, right? Like iron bars are there. Iron bars have to get polished. So for polishing, you give it to a job worker who will polish it and give it to you. But I am supplying goods to him. He's supplying goods back to me, but he's doing some service on it. So that's a service component, right? Now steel I'm giving him steel. He's giving me back that steel in a different form. So will he charge me rate of steel? No, he will not charge me rate of steel. He will charge me rate of service. The GST rate on service, which is on his job work charges, he will charge 18%, which is the rate of GST on services. Okay, but the rate of steel, when I supply that steel, polished steel to my customers, I will charge 12%. So it becomes very important to classify what is goods and what is services so that it gives the correct rate. Now, restaurant used to charge VAT and service tax under service tax regime. They used to charge VAT and service tax, VAT on the food component and service charge on service tax on some part of the service charges. So that's why to get away with that, now GST has come with a Schedule 2. Now Schedule 2 in detail is not required for you, but just for your understanding, I will walk you through Schedule 2. Okay. Okay. Schedule 2 is given here in simplified term. When you see Schedule 2, it will have various other things. So we have taken only the relevant part for our discussion. First is transfer. Any transfer of title in goods, which means the goods are getting transferred with the title, which implies that there is a transfer of ownership, transfer of possession, and control of goods. That is the transfer of property in the goods itself is getting transferred. That is classified as supply of goods. Then any transfer of right in goods, right? So they've used clear demarcation so that there is no confusion. Transfer of the title in goods is supply of goods. Transfer of right in goods or undivided share in goods without the transfer thereof, which means that, say, I'm giving some machinery on hire, or I'm renting some machinery, okay, or I'm renting some transportation vehicle, is all treated as supply of services. Okay, here there is a transfer in title. Here there is no transfer in title, but there is a transfer of right to use is a supply of service. Right? Then any transfer of title in goods under an agreement which stipulates that property in goods shall be used at a future date, right? Upon payment of consideration, that is, hire purchase transaction is treated as supply of goods. Why? Because the ownership will ultimately get transferred in the future date. So it's a supply of goods. Then in case of land and buildings, any tenancy, easement, license to occupy land is all supply of service. Any lease or letting out of the building, including a commercial building, is supply of service, right? So here you have to note down that renting of a building, which means renting of a place, but renting of a place for residential purposes is not covered because it is covered under exemption. So if you're buying a house, if you're taking rent for your residential purposes, then there is no GST. But if you're using the space for commercial purposes, then it is liable to GST. Then any treatment or process, that is like example what I've given of job work, any treatment or process which is applied to another person's goods is supply of service. Okay. Then transfer of business assets. Okay. When I'm transferring the business assets, where goods forming part of an assets of a business are transferred or disposed of by under the directions of the person carrying on the business, so as no longer to form part of those assets, wherein whether the transaction is done for a consideration or no consideration, whether ITC has been availed or no, whether goods belong pre-GST or post-GST, doesn't matter. Where I am transferring goods as part of a assets of a business, when the business itself is getting transferred, it will be treated as supply of goods, right? When there is small assets, right, and I'm selling my business as a whole, it will be treated as supply of goods only, not as a supply of service. Then where and by under the direction of a person carrying on a business, goods held or used for the purpose of business are put to use for any private use, right? I bought some goods and I'm using it for my personal purpose. That will be treated as a supply of service. Why, sir? I'm giving goods itself. Yes, but GST is saying that the objective was to sell goods. Now, as a proprietor, you're using it for your personal purpose. So there is a supply of service from the business for your to the proprietor. So that will be treated as a supply of service. Where any person ceases to be taxable person when he closes down his business and he disposes of the asset, that will be treated as supply of goods. And when all are the scenario of supply of service, renting of immovable property, we have discussed. However, residential renting is exempt. Construction of a complex service is also, so construction services are all supply of services. Temporary transfer or permitting the right of use or enjoyment of IP rights. So intellectual property rights transfer is supply of services. Intellectual property includes copyrights, patents, trademarks, and designs. Then development, design, programming, customization, or implementation of information technology software. Anything of these activities, development, creation, upgradation, programming of a software is all supply of service. Why? Why is this so very important? Earlier, for this activity, both VAT and service tax were levied, but now it is only VAT, it's only GST which will apply. Then agreeing to the obligation to refrain from the act or to tolerate an act or situation is supply of service, which means any late payment charges, what is being paid, any notice pay recovery, any cancellation charges charged by hotels and airlines. These are the examples which is meaning of obligation to refrain from an act or to tolerate an act. This is a supply of service. Transfer of right to use any goods for any purpose for cash, deferred payment, or other valuable consideration is again supply of service. Fine. Then composite supply. The following composite supply shall be treated as supply of service. Works contract service. In works contract, what happens? Goods and services both are involved. So works contract services, which is particularly related in relation to immobile property, is treated as supply of service. Then supply by way of as part of any service in any manner of goods of food. So any services of food delivery or restaurant services is supply of service. So whatever hotel charges to you, they're all treated as supply of service. Then there was this aspect of supply of goods by an unincorporated association, that is the club to members. This is excluded from Schedule 2 and now put it as 71AA. Okay. In case of a question, in case of car servicing unit is giving for free service without consideration under the course or furtherance of business, then will it be free service or will it be taxable? It will be a free service itself, because any cars you bought and within 1 year you will get free service. So it will be treated as a free service, no consideration, no GST. Okay, so Schedule 2 is only for your reference, not as a part of discussion, but I've just covered it so that you keep it in mind, because there is some discussion on Schedule 2 in the study material as well. Okay. Now, taxability of tenancy rights under GST. So again, there is a clarification, which means there was some confusion. That's why the government will come up with some clarification. What happens in case of tenancy rights under GST? Okay, what are tenancy rights? It means that I have a right to give the property. I've taken a property on rent. I am not the owner. Now I can give it on to anybody on rent to whom I like. So that is the meaning of tenancy rights. So what happens in case of tenancy rights under GST? So in case of a land ownership, okay, if you're an owner of a land, you have various rights. You have a right to possess, which means you can occupy it. You have a right to control. You have a right of exclusion. It means that you can exclude anybody else from coming into that your property. You have a right to derive income, and you have a right to sell it off. Now, tenancy rights is one of these rights. Now, all of these rights put together is called as what? Ownership rights. If you're an owner, you are a ultimate beneficial of all these rights. But as a tenant, you have a right to derive income, right? You can stay over there, but specific rights are given to you saying that, okay, I permit you to sublet it to anybody. So this is called as tenancy rights. So what about the taxability of that? Activity of transfer of tenancy right against consideration is supply of service under GST. So we saw transfer of tenancy rights is supply of service. Fine, that's fine. Then what happens? However, grant of tenancy rights in residential dwelling is exempted, right? So if I've given as we had said, that renting of residential property is exempted, but surrendering this tenancy rights for a consideration, saying that I will be the owner. Now I will give away my right of giving away to anybody to X party. Now I am the owner. I am giving the right to give it on tenants. You will not be a tenant, but you're taking right from me, saying that you have the property in your name. Now I will have the tenancy rights. I will take this tenancy rights and I'll give it to anybody whom I want. Okay, so this is called transfer of tenancy rights. So letting out is not liable to GST because they will use it for rental residential purposes. But this transaction between me and you is not about staying, is about giving away my right. I'm giving you a right to stay. I'm giving away my right to collect rent from somebody. So this, even though the other person will use it for residential purposes, this transaction between me and you is a tenancy right agreement. So this is also called famously called as pagdi. So this pagdi transaction wherein I will give it to you and you will give me a pagdi amount. This is not exempted. This is taxable, is what is this clarification saying. Okay. So I will explain this in Hindi for students. कि मैं जो है ओनर हूं, एक जगह का ओनर हूं, इसमें मुझे 4-5 राइट्स मिलते हैं. ठीक है, जब मैं ओनर बनता हूं तब मुझे क्या क्या राइट्स मिलते हैं. मुझे ये राइट बनता है कि मैं उस जगह को इस जगह पे ऊपर पोजेस करूं. ठीक है, फिर राइट उसको कंट्रोल करूं, फिर जो भी कोई अन्य कोई आदमी आएगा उसको मैं एंटर करने नहीं दूंगा, दैट इज राइट ऑफ एक्सक्लूजन. फिर राइट टू डेराइव इनकम, मतलब रेंट कलेक्ट करने का राइट मेरे पास है और उसको बेचने का राइट मेरे पास है. जब ये राइट टू डिराइव इनकम होता है, ये एक राइट होता है. ठीक है, अब मैं अग्रीमेंट करता हूं कि मैं ओनर रहूंगा, लेकिन जो किसको देना है और किन से रेंट कलेक्ट करना है, ये सिर्फ ये पोर्शन में आपको दे रहा हूं. तो आप, जब मैं आपको भाड़े पे दूंगा तब मैं आपसे जीएसटी कलेक्ट नहीं करूंगा क्योंकि आप रेसिडेंशियल के लिए यूज कर रहे हो. लेकिन मैं ये झमेला नहीं चाहता हूं कि मैं आपसे रेंट कर लूं या किससे कलेक्ट करूं. मैं किसी और को ये राइट ही दे देता हूं कि आप ही इस, जैसे आप ओनर हो उस तरह पे आप बर्ताव करो और आप इस जगह को किसी को भी रेंट दे दो और उनसे रेंट ले लो. ठीक है, तो ये जो मैं ट्रांसफर कर रहा हूँ, फर्स्ट अगर मैं ये जगह भाड़े पे दे रहा हूँ तब जीएसटी कलेक्ट नहीं करूंगा. लेकिन जब मैं ये कलेक्शन ऑफ राइट से फॉर 10 years के लिए मैं दे देता हूँ, ठीक है, when I transfer this right to collect rent, this is called as transfer of tenancy rights, या इसको पगड़ी कहते हैं. जो ये मैं ट्रांसफर कर दूंगा इसके ऊपर जीएसटी लगेगा. तो ट्रांसफर ऑफ रेंट ऑफ पगड़ी और टेनेंसी राइट्स इज लायबल टू जीएसटी, बट or this thing renting of immovable property per se is not liable to GST. यही ये सर्कुलर क्लैरिफाई करता है. Clear till now? Tenancy rights is of landowner or the tenant. Tenancy right is still the landowner right itself, because he is the owner and he has the right to collect the tenant rent from the tenants. So who will pay GST? The person who will collect the GST. Very good question. So when I am giving it, he is the service receiver, right? He is the service provider and I am the service I am the service provider. So generally I will get the consideration as a landowner. I will get the consideration and I will have to charge him GST and pay to the government. So the person who is giving away his tenancy rights, he will collect the GST from the person who is paying money to me. Okay. Great. Now there are some instances of non-supplies under GST. We saw Schedule 3, and other than that also there are some transactions. Now what are these non-supplies? Non-supplies can be of 3 forms. Schedule 3, or it could be through a notification, or it could be through clarification. So we'll discuss on the first part, which is Schedule 3. Now what are all covered under Schedule 3? Services by an employee to employer. So employee जब employer को service provide करता है उसके ऊपर GST नहीं लगेगा. What are those services? Anything in the course of employment. Anything in the course of employment, what an employee provides to his employer, right, is not liable to GST. So the salary is definitely not liable to GST. Then if he is getting any pay from the employment, saying that, okay, severance pay, or you have to leave before your service itself, like there is a clause in the employment agreement which says that you have to serve 3 months notice period, but there is no payment to make for 3 months. I will pay you in 1 month and you have to leave. So that severance pay, is also because of my employment contract, or any joining bonus also because of employment contract. So all of that is because my employer and employee relationship, that is not liable to GST, right? Then after he leaves the company, say I pay him some amount for not sharing the know-how of the company. So that is not be treated as employee-employee relationship, because that is something to protect my rights. I'm paying him on that, GST will apply. Okay. So the company, whoever pays him, they have to pay extra GST on that portion of uh, kind of amount what they pay to him, to not transfer or not to keep the confidence of whatever things he has learned at the company. Okay. Then any court or tribunal, if any court or tribunal charges any fees, that is also not liable to GST. That is treated as non-supplies. Then services performed by MP, MLA, etc. are also outside the scope of supply. Any funeral, burial, or crematorium services is also out. Sale of land subject to Schedule 3 with Schedule 2 of building, which means what? When I sell the land per se, if I'm selling a land, then no GST because it's an immovable property. But if I sell a building I'm entering, right? I'm entering that I will make a building for you. So sale of building is liable to GST when it is liable only at the first instance, wherein, because building also eventually will become immobile property. So how do you demarcate? That's why there is a mechanism to demarcate it, which says that there is something called as a occupancy certificate. Any transfer or any amount received up to the date of occupancy certificate, okay, is not liable to GST, is liable to GST because it is an mobile property up till it's constructed. Once you receive the occupancy certificate, it means it becomes an immovable property. So there you don't charge. So after the occupancy certificate, any sale of building will be treated as not liable to GST because of immovable property. Anything done, any sale done prior to this occupancy certificate is liable to GST. Fine. Then we said that actionable claims. So what kind of actionable claims are excluded? Actionable claims other than lottery, betting, and gambling, which means that actionable claims are not saying that it is exempted. Okay, all actionable claims are not taxable. Only lottery, betting, and gambling are liable to GST. Other than that, all other actionable claims are excluded. Okay, so understand this: non-supplies are not liable to GST. So actionable claims are not liable to GST because it's covered under this. But there's the exclusion of exclusion, right? That's why it says that actionable claims other than lottery, betting, and gambling. So lottery, betting, and gambling will be liable to GST, and any other actionable claims will be outside the scope of GST. Clear? Then we'll get into what are the notifications which says that non-supplies. So क्या क्या notifications ये बताएंगे, क्योंकि हमने देखा है कि non-supplies के 3 कैटेगरीज है, शेड्यूल 3 में ये 6 चीजें हैं जिसके ऊपर जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा, और फिर नोटिफिकेशंस बताएंगे और क्लैरिफिकेशंस भी बताएंगे कि किस किस चीजों पे जीएसटी नहीं लगेगा. तो नोटिफिकेशंस क्या बताता है? सेकेंड पार्ट नोटिफिकेशन ये बोलता है कि पंचायत एंड म्युनिसिपैलिटी फंक्शंस, जो पंचायत के फंक्शंस है, जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बताते हैं कि पंचायत की सर्विस करने चाहिए, जो स्टेट म्युनिसिपैलिटीज होते हैं, लोकल गवर्नमेंट, लोकल म्युनिसिपैलिटीज होते हैं, उनके सर्विसेज भी जीएसटी के बाहर रहेंगे. So municipality and panchayat are outside the scope of GST. Just one moment. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So we were discussing on non-supplies, which is given through notifications. So notification says any panchayat services or municipality services is treated as no supplies under GST. Then alcoholic liquor license. GST on alcoholic liquor is there or not there? It is not there. Fine. On alcoholic liquor, there is state excise and state VAT, which will apply. That's fine. But the alcoholic liquor license is issued by the government. So when any shop wants to open up a liquor shop, they have to get the license. So the government gives kind of a bidding process, and the highest bidder gets the license. So this license is a kind of a consideration which the government gets. Will it be liable to GST? A notification clarifies that no, on alcoholic liquor license also there is no GST. So these are the two things which are coming through notification route. Then there is a clarification route which says that on what all things there will not be GST. IS here means interstate. Okay, so interstate movement of conveyance between distinct persons. Okay, interstate movement of conveyance like a bus or a train or any kind of a vehicle. Conveyance could be any vehicle. So any kind of a vehicle which has been transferred, like when I travel from one state to another state, I travel in a bus. So this bus is moving, no, from one state to another. So will you treat that bus is getting transferred? No, the passengers in the bus are only getting transferred. So there is a clarification saying that conveyance which is getting transferred are not liable to GST because there is no actual transfer as such. Second part is interstate movement of rigs, tools, and spares, and all goods on wheels. Okay, what are rigs, tools, and all? So, in case of big cranes or big machineries, there are some tools which they use, right? Right. In case of a digging of a well, they use rigs, right? So these rigs, tools, and spares, which are all goods on wheels, right? Goods on wheels means a crane. A crane is actually a machinery, but it cannot be fitted and removed and then taken everywhere. So it's on a wheel, right? So all these goods which are on wheels, their interstate movement is meant for what? For doing some work. So crane is taken from one state to another state to do some kind of a weightlifting activity. So these shall be treated neither as supply of goods or supply of services is what this is clarifying. Fine. So this is clear. So they didn't want to tax this. That's why they have clarified that on such movement, there will not be any GST. Sir, isn't so professional working in an organization is liable? I didn't understand your question, Ishant. Professional working in an organization. So professional will not work. So if a professional is engaged in a firm, right? Like a chartered accountant is a professional. Now he is working, he's employed in a private limited company, working in a private limited company or say a CA firm itself. Now he could be working as an employee. So if he's working as an employee, then he is working in his capacity as an employee providing services. So employer-employee relationship, Schedule 3 excluded, no GST. But if he's providing as a professional, not as an employee, now he's providing regular services as a freelancer and as a consultant, right? Then as a consultant, if he's providing any services, then he has to pay GST. Okay, because he is providing in his individual professional capacity and not in the capacity of an employee. So GST will be liable then. Then third aspect is other question is, isn't lottery, gambling, betting illegal? So how can we charge tax on it? So some states gambling, betting, now horse betting, some states have this horse racing. Okay. And gambling in terms of some states have this provision of casinos. They're all gambling activities. So that states have made it legal. Some states have made lottery also legal. So in such cases, wherever it is legal and it is being done, there GST will apply. So if it is illegal, then it is definitely illegal itself in other states to do it. So why license is not supply as there is consideration? License is supplies, but this liquor license, okay, because since liquor itself is outside GST, and this liquor licensing, what I'm giving is like a kind of a right given by the government to use it, right? So most of the government services are excluded. So then why should this government licensing be taxable? That's why they have kept this liquor licensing also outside the scope of supply itself. Okay. Intrastate movements are liable to GST. That's a good question. Intrastate movement also is not liable. The clarification is coming that because these buses and all, anyways, within the state, there is no supply, right? The question came up that I am moving from one state to another state and check post will come. So they will keep raising queries. So in that cases, what is to be done? That's where this clarification came. Intrastate, so definitely there is no supply itself, like tools, jigs and all. When they are supplying something, then they are moving and they are charging something for the service charge. Then on the service charge, definitely GST will come. But if they are just moving, then on that full crane, you cannot charge GST. So that's the clarification. You got it? So on the whole vehicle, on the whole crane, will there be GST? Because I'm moving from one state to another state. Like, take this differentiate this with customs. In customs, what happens when I import anything, even if it is for, say, repair work, like a big crane, if it's, say, assuming hypothetically, if you import it for doing some work and you send it back, customs duty will apply on the full crane because there is no distinction or no clarification saying that you have imported for some repair work and you will send it back. So don't pay customs duty. No, customs duty is whenever any goods comes in on the value of the goods, customs duty has to be paid. So similarly, that application cannot be applied in GST saying that I'm moving this crane from one state to another state, so apply GST. So that's where this clarification is given saying that for supply of the crane person will charge his service charge for usage of the crane. That will be liable to GST, but the movement of crane as such per se is not liable to GST. Clear? Isn't alcoholic liquor license taxed? No, it is not taxed. So that's why this alcoholic liquor license is specifically excluded. Okay, then what if the supply of conveyances between distinct persons? So even between distinct persons also, it is not supply because that's the complete wordings. If you see this exclusion, it says that interstate movement of conveyance between distinct persons, right? Because generally, if there is distinct persons, it will come under Schedule 1, right? If there is no consideration. So they have specifically said that even if it is between distinct persons, but the item should be what? It should be conveyance, movement of conveyance, then it will not be taxable. But if I'm selling it as such, if I'm selling the lorry, if I'm selling a bus from one place to another place, and I'm selling it per se, one is selling it, one is using it. When I sell it, like I am a dealer of bus and I have a branch in Tamil Nadu. So if I'm selling the bus from one state to another state, then it is supply, right? But the scenario, what they're saying is interstate movement. But if I'm using this bus for transfer of goods, for movement of goods, right? Like you have interstate buses flying from customers, flying the customers from one state to another state. So when they fly from one state to another state, then it will not be liable, is what it is saying. Sir, is free service provided by car servicing agency under the course or furtherance of business taxable or not? Free service provided by car servicing agency is in the course or furtherance of business, but it is not taxable because there is no consideration, right? Now, when will they give free? When you buy a new vehicle. So it is always treated, the price of services is included or it is factored in at the time of supply of the vehicle itself. That's why there will not be any separate GST when there is a free service going on. Clear, Sayed? Then Harshita, your doubt is what if there is a movement of supply of conveyance between distinct person? Again, not taxable. The bus fare that we are giving to the bus conductors are GST liable? Yes. On the bus fares, there is GST which is liable. Then again, you will see under exemptions that if it is AC bus, only it is taxable. Non-AC buses, it is not taxable. That classification will still come in. So, sir, crane person providing services is liable to GST and not the crane. Correct. That's the correct aspect. What if the movement is supply conveyance only between distinct person? Still, it is outside because the supply of the goods per se is taxable, but the usage of the goods is exempted. But the passenger are taxable in GST only in case of AC buses. If you see Malay, it will be taxable. Non-AC buses, GST is not applicable. Where will we get these notes? This notes, I will update it, upload it on the BOS portal. So you will find it over there. So by next class, you will get the notes of the introduction and supply both uploaded. If you don't get it by next class, please let me know. But I have already sent so the team should upload it any moment now. Okay. So we'll proceed further now. We have covered majorly everything. We have covered Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. We have covered what is the classification given in Schedule 2 of supply of goods and supply of services. Then we understood what is non-supplies under GST, which means non-supplies could be in terms of Schedule 3, or it could be in terms of notification, or it could be in terms of a clarification, right? So we have understood that all of this is non-supplies under GST. Now we'll proceed with what is called as composite and mixed supply. Okay. Today, can we take a break earlier? Because if we understand this composite and mixed supply and then take a break, that will be a little problem. So we'll take an early break today. We'll break now and we'll get back in around 5 to 7 minutes. So there is some question on what is undivided share in land. You take this undivided share in land concept is come in because of this new developments in a sale of apartments. Like when I sell an apartment, I am selling to the buyer the constructed portion of his flat and as well as the land itself, right? Because the land also is divided. There's one land on which the whole building is constructed. So you're getting undivided share in land, and you're also getting undivided share in goods, because as such for your particular flat, he will not buy goods. And for the common amenities, he'll not buy separate goods. He will buy all the goods together. So is he giving you goods? A constructor or a developer will not give you goods. He will give you goods converted in the form of an apartment or a construction complex, right? So this undivided share in goods means undivided share in all those goods for the common amenities. So that is called as undivided share in goods. Then the next question is, please explain the exceptions in transfer of business assets given in schedule 2, given in page 2.40. So 2.40 says transfer of business assets. So these are not exceptions. These are all examples. Okay. So the illustrations given are, okay. So there are some exceptions, but we will read through the examples. Goods forming, let me share the screen. Yeah. So we had discussed this in schedule 2, but now we can discuss in detail. Transfer of business assets. Goods forming part of the business assets are transferred or disposed of under the direction of the person carrying on the business, so as no longer to form part of other assets. So when he's selling off his business assets are transferred or disposed of, he's selling off all the assets. That is a category of supply of goods. Okay. Then goods held are used for business or put to private use. We know it is supply of service. So when a business asset is used for personal purposes, the form is getting converted from business to personal use. That is supply of service. Then goods forming part of assets of any business carried on by a person who ceases to be a taxable person, which means he was a taxable person. Now he is surrendering his registration. So he is no more a taxable person. It shall be deemed to be supplied by him in the course of furtherance of a business immediately before he ceases. So because whatever input tax credit is claimed, now when he is closing it down, what will happen to his input tax credit? So it will be treated as though he's selling it immediately before he closes down his business, and it will be treated as supply of goods. The example given is very clear here. Arun, a trader, is winding up his business. So any goods left in stock shall be deemed to be supplied by him. Now, what is the exception? The exception is business is transferred as a going concern to another person. So why is this an exception? Because this is there under exemption. Exemption says that if you're transferring your business as a going concern means all the assets are being transferred, assets and liabilities are transferred as a going concern, not as a discontinuance. Then it is not liable to GST, it is exempted. So business being transferred as a going concern to another person is exempted. If you're closing down the business, then whatever stock you're lying, because at the time of closing down, there is no going concern, right? There's a stoppage of business. So there is no going concern. So that's the reason anything lying in stock, you have to pay GST. But if you're transferring as a going concern, if you're doing any amalgamation, there also you're giving it as a going concern. So any transfer or sale of the business as a going concern is not liable to GST. Now, another exception is business is carried on by a personal representative who is deemed to be a taxable person. Personal representative will come when say a proprietor is there and he is expired. Now his legal heir comes in. That legal heir will be considered as a personal representative who will be deemed to be a taxable person who will carry on. Then also there will not be any GST. Like in In income tax, you have exemptions when you're transferring, doing any amalgamation, demerger, subject to some conditions. There are some exceptions. Like similarly, here there are these two exceptions. Clear, Darshan? Sir, are there any circumstances involving both supply of goods and services? Yeah, like works contract. When I am doing a construction services, there I'm supplying goods also, and I'm doing the service of construction also. The goods, the particular bricks, stones are also getting transferred, and the service of construction is also getting transferred. So that is an example. So all works contracts, many works contract also will be treated as an example. Then in case of a restaurant, you're eating food, food is supplied, and the ambience, the place where you sit, all of that is a service. So that is another example of goods plus service. Okay, so there are various such examples of goods and service. What happens if goods and service both are supplied? If it is construction of immovable property, it is treated as works contract. But if it is not construction of immovable property, other than construction of immovable property, all other kinds of works contract which involves movable property will be treated as composite supply. Okay, so what is composite supply is what we are going to understand now, that when two supplies are involved, they could either be treated as composite supply or a mixed supply. Like, let us set the background before we get into composite supply and mixed supply. I am a supplier of goods, GST will be charged on this. I am supplier of services, GST on services will be charged. Now, if I'm supplying two things together, okay, like the traditional example what I'd given you on air conditioner. Air conditioner I'm supplying, and I am supplying the installation and delivery charges also, and doing the delivery of this air conditioner also. So there are three supplies which is getting involved. So will I charge separately for this? For these three, first air conditioner separate, the installation separate, and the delivery separate. But my charges can be in scenario one, all three put together, one price, or scenario two, for AC separate, delivery separate, and installation separate. So what happens in such scenarios? What will be the GST rate? So for the purpose of saving of these GST, say air conditioner is at 28%, and delivery charges is at generally 5%, and installation is 18%. So can I split the bill and do the tax planning? And if I do that, then what will happen to people who are doing a consolidated price? Okay, take another example. I am supplying a gift hamper, wherein I am providing a gift hamper in the generally in the seasonal thing, Diwali gifts. I'm giving a sweet box. I am giving a wallet, okay, and I'm giving a water bottle. All of this is also one supply. How is this contrary to the first example of air conditioner I have given to you? What are the difference between this and this is what we have to understand by this aspect of composite and mixed supply. Okay. So composite and mixed supply is defined in section 8. What does composite supply definition say? Composite supply says composite supply means a supply made by a taxable person to a recipient. Clear? So composite supply means a supply which is made by a taxable person to his recipient and comprises of two or more taxable supply of goods or services or both or any combination of thereof. So there should be minimum two. If it is one, it is not composite supply. If it is more than one, it is two and anything more, 2, 3, 4, whatever. If there are two or more aspects of taxable supplies of goods or services or any combination thereof, okay, then it will become composite supply. Not that, then the third link also is there, which says that if they are naturally bundled, they should be naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business. They should be naturally bundled, not artificial bundling, right? The second example I gave you of gift hamper, these are all not naturally bundled. These are artificially bundled. So it will not form under composite supply. Because composite supply, the condition is it should comply of 2 or more taxable supplies and they should be naturally bundled. So in my first example of air conditioner, generally my trade is that when I am supplying air conditioner, they will not ask for installation only. They will assume that the air conditioner supplier only will come and install. So my price will always be inclusive of the installation itself. Okay, so it can be possible that I'll tell them, even if you don't take the installation, my price is fixed. So it makes it so very strong that the natural bundling is there. So when this natural bundling is there and supplied in conjunction with each other, which is harmonious with each other, which goes along hand in hand, it's called conjunction. In the ordinary course of my business, then it is composite supply, and one of which will be principal supply. So it can't be that everything is important. One thing should be primary and other things should be secondary. So in the example of air conditioner, installation is primary or air conditioner is primary. The supply of air conditioner is primary. So if you are supplying the air conditioner, then the installation will come along with it. Okay. So it is an example of composite supply. So composite supply, the aspects are composite supply means a supply made by a taxable person to a recipient and comprising of 2 or more taxable supply of goods or services or any combination thereof. They are naturally bundled and are supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business. Okay, naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, and one of which should be a principal supply. If there are more than one principal supplies, that is also a problem. Then which will be the principal supply becomes a problem. One of that should be a principal supply. Okay. Please explain naturally bundled again. I explained naturally bundled, opposite of artificially bundled. I'll give you some examples to understand what is naturally bundled. I am supplier of goods. Okay. Now my goods are specialized goods like jewelry. Now when I'm supplying jewelry, the box is always there. I cannot give the jewelry just like this in your hands. The box, jewelry box, say I have some lighting in this jewelry box. So or the box itself is so very costly, it costs 1,000 rupees. Jewelry is like say 50,000 rupees. So can I charge separately for this box? No, my price of the jewelry will always be inclusive of this box itself. So because the customer conceives that when I go to jewelry, I will not carry anything. The jeweler will give me the box and he'll give me the bag also. So these are naturally bundled along with the principal supply. Fine. So that's how we have to understand naturally bundled. How do you buy it? How do you generally conceive it? How do you generally use it, and how the trade generally uses it? So that is the meaning of naturally bundled. Okay. Now, how do you determine if it is naturally bundled or artificially bundled is what you are trying to see here. Perception of the consumer or service recipient. Various examples you'll see here. How is the perception of the consumer? When you go and buy a mobile, the general thing is you will get it with a charger. So mobile and charger are composite supply. The principal supply is mobile and ancillary supply other than principal supply is the charger. So what GST rate you have to apply in such scenario? So understand that also, then we'll go through it. So mobile, if it is 5% and charger, if it is 18%, what should be the GST rate in case of mobile supply? So food in hotel will come in naturally bundled. What are the two supplies in case of food in hotel? Food in hotel is only one supply. What do you think, Sarvasi, that there are two supplies in food in hotel? Ishan is saying 18% on the whole thing. Okay. If the mobile is 5% and charger is 18%. serving of food and food, correct. So that could be a good thing that when I'm giving food, I could either pack it and give it as a parcel or I could serve the food there. So there are two aspects. That is also a good example of naturally bundled. Correct. So most of you have started giving 18%, but and then people are start giving the right answers that it is 5% because mobile is the principal supply. So GST rate in case of a composite supply will be the rate which is applicable to the principal supply. In our example, the rate of mobile is of say 5%, right? And the ancillary charges is 18%. The highest rate you will not apply. You will apply the 5% principal component rate on the mobile. Definitely you will apply 5%, and any other ancillary products also you will apply the rate of the principal supply rate itself, because the supply of is a composite supply, and the composite supply says that the rate which is applicable on the principal supply will apply on the ancillary supply also. Okay, so with that aspect, let's read through some examples. Now, how will you determine whether it's a principal supply or if it's a composite supply or non-composite supply? Because there will be some very small difference between composite supply and mixed supply. So the other example of artificially bundling of a Diwali gift and some products along with it, like a wallet, a water bottle bundled together and given as a gift hamper, right? So this is an example of a mixed supply. But composite supply, how do you distinguish? Some aspects are given by the circular. Perception of the consumer or service recipient. When I buy mobile, I need the charger along with it. How service provided in that business provides similar bundle of services. Example, air travel, right? So when air travel is done, along with the air travel, it was generally conceived that all the ancillary, like the food, earlier they used to give food. Now at least some ancillary services will be given along with it. So when I do air travel, all of these services will be given along. So there will not be any separate charges or no separate GST. So how the service provider in that business provides. So all air travel companies provide some basic amenities along with the air travel, right? So that is treated as a bundled service. Then nature of various services in the bundle of service. Okay, what are the various services provided in the bundle of services? Example, stay at a hotel. If I'm staying at a hotel, what are all the other services which are bundled along with it has to be looked into, right? When I stay at a hotel, generally breakfast is complimentary, right? So it will be treated as a composite supply, not as a separate supply. So how is the nature of various services bundled together in the normal trade? Then how is it normally advertised as a package? It will be advertised as 1,800 rupees inclusive of breakfast, 1,500 rupees inclusive of breakfast. They advertise in such a manner. So how it is generally advertised, that also has to be considered. Different elements are not separately available, right? Like an example of water purifier and the spare parts. So the water purifier comes with the parts included in it, and these parts are not separately available generally. You have to buy it from them itself, from the service provider itself. Like a AquaGuard water purifier, when I buy, the parts are given by them along with the purifier itself. So that becomes a bundled supply. So I cannot artificially tell that I am supplying you the outer part, the chassis separately, and the water purifier component separately. It is a composite one supply itself. Then how are the different elements are an integral part to an overall supply? Example, laptop. When I buy a laptop, I have to select the operating system along with it. So if they are integral to one another, wherein without operating system, I cannot operate the laptop. So operating system comes along with the laptop itself. So that is how you will determine that laptop and operating system are bundled together. In case anything gets corrupt, then you can buy an operating system separately. But generally, the laptop is supplied along with the operating system. So these are the aspects you will keep in mind to decide whether this is a composite supply or no. The one which is primary product, the rate should be applicable. So mobile and charger can be sold separately, so it is not a mixed supply. Mobile and charger can be sold separately. Separately, it can be sold. The charger are generally sold separately, but mobiles, when they are brought new, a box piece mobile, when you buy, the seller sells it how? He sells it with the charger itself. So that's why the first box piece which comes in is what we are talking about. That comes with the charger. So the rate, GST rate, or the value of the charger is not to be considered separately. It will be treated as together itself. So nowadays, mobile don't come with a charger. This is an old concept. Mobiles do come with a charger. They don't come with the earphones and other things. Earlier, mobiles used to come with earphones. Now they don't come with the earphones, but they still come with a charger. Except iPhone, I feel that they don't come up. But except that iPhone category, I've seen all other phones, they come with the charger itself. So if there is a shift in the industry that they don't supply the charger, then it will not be treated as a composite supply. As of now, I can see that it is coming mostly, except few cases wherein high advanced phone, they don't come with the charger because they need a separate charger. But latest I've seen that latest mobile what I bought, it comes with a charger. Mobile is at MRP, so why to charge GST? You mean if there is MRP, then there is no GST? That's a good question to put across. MRP means maximum retail price, so no GST to be charged. Cold drink with bottle and can. Yes, that is also an example of a composite supply. So cold drink comes with the can itself. Even Samsung don't provide charger. Okay. So then there's a shift in the thing. So then there is a separate supply. So mobile phone is a separate supply in such cases, and charger is a separate supply. So if the mobile phone is getting charged at 5%, you will charge 5%, and there is a value separately for the charger. So on that charger, you have to charge 18%. Yeah, Ishan. So you're saying mobile is at MRP, so you should not charge GST. How is it so? So all MRP products, do you mean to say, is it not liable to GST? MRP is inclusive of all taxes, correct. So maximum retail price means it's inclusive of taxes. So taxes are included in it. Okay. So it is inclusive of taxes. So what will be the taxes they have to pay? Whatever is MRP, they have to reverse work at the rate. So, okay. So MRP also they have to reverse. So whether it should be reversible at the rate of the mobile or rate of the charger is what we have to see in case of a MRP based products also. Okay. Right. And then there are some circulars again to clarify this aspect. The first is on printing of books. It could be printing of books or pamphlets, anything where only pamphlets means the brochures, what is being supplied, where only content is supplied by the publisher or owner of the publishing rights. Okay. Wherein content is supplied by the publisher or the owner of the publishing rights. He's a book writer, is a book's author writes it, he gives to the publisher. A publisher has the right of the content of the author, right? Now, publisher is giving this content to the agency. Now, this agency, the printing agency, is supplying this printing activity on this. So, is he giving you the content? No, content is the main thing is supply of content, right? Now, this publisher is giving this content and telling to the printer press to print it and give it. So, he is supplying the printed books to me. So, is it supply of goods or services was the question. They said that if the publisher is giving the content, the printing agency, the printing press is only using this content. They are not developing their own content. They're using your content, putting it on a book and giving you this printed books. So this is a supply of service. Okay, they will charge you what is the GST rate on supply of service, not on supply of books. Okay. Second scenario is when there is a scenario of printing of envelopes, letter card, napkins, etc. using logo or design of the recipient. But what is the main thing? The main aspect is predominant supply of goods, and printing of my logo and all is ancillary. Of course, I will give him my logo and things like that, but is the content very much important? The quality of the envelopes, the quality of the napkins is what I will discuss with him. So that becomes a primary supply. So it is supply of goods. Okay. So both the cases, I am going to the printing agency. Both the cases, I'm telling him to print. But in first scenario, content is mine. Second scenario, there is no content. There is material which I'm buying from him with his printing job. So the primary aspect and second aspect is getting the printed material, getting the printed goods. So it is supply of goods. In the first case, my text should be there. My confidentiality should be there that you should not leak away this to any other printing agency. They should not start printing it. So you have to ensure confidentiality of my content. So that's why it's a supply of service. Of course, I will discuss with him on the quality of paper and things like that. But major thing is what the content which should be published. That's why the first aspect, the supply is composite supply of service, and second one, it is supply of goods. Then in scenario of bus bodybuilding. What is bus bodybuilding? The buses or the lorries, what we see, they are fitted on a chassis. So the bus company buys the chassis because that's where the engine and the main components of the bus are there. The chassis is only the structure. So the bus company buys the bus. Okay. The government buys the bus. If it's a government company who's running the thing, they're buying the bus and they're giving to a job worker who is doing the bus bodybuilding. Now, he will fit the bus bodybuilding, he will buy the materials and he will put it. If he buys the materials and he puts it based on my description, it is supply of goods. But if I'm saying I will buy all the chassis, you have to only do the fitting work, then it is supply of service. So in bus bodybuilding, it depends on case to case saying what is my agreement with him. If my agreement with him is only supply of that service, then it is a supply of service. But if it is on the chassis, he has to fit the materials which he has to buy and he has to fit it also. Then the main aspect is supplying of that chassis on the fitting of the bus on the chassis. So it's a supply of goods. Okay. Then retrading of tires. If I have old tires, okay, tires are very costly for big vehicles. So I cannot afford to run it with worn out tires. Whatever say over tires, I cannot use it. So I cannot use worn out tires. So I will give it to a retrading company who will do the retrading so that gives a better life. So if old tires are provided by the retrading company or supplier of retraded tires, then it is supply of goods. If I'm giving my own tires and telling the retiring company, okay, retrading company to rethread it, then my goods he's taking, he's providing his service of rethreading and he's giving back to me. That's a supply of service. But He itself is procuring some old retired tires and he is retreading and giving it to me. Then it is supply of goods because I'm buying the goods ultimately from him. Okay, so that's how you have to classify whether it is supply of goods or services based on what is the principal aspect what you're buying from him. Sir, when we go to big stores, they don't bargain, and after the total, they put GST separately. No, if you see that, they will not charge more than MRP. They will charge the MRP price, right? And they will disclose what is the CGST, what is the SGST it is being charged. But that CGST and SGST will be on the base value. If you add up the base value, CGST and SGST, that will total up to your MRP. And if you have some discount, that will we say 100 rupees product, you're getting 10 rupees discount, 90 rupees is the price. The GST will be 90 into 5 divided by 105. So your base price will come down and your base price plus CGST and SGST will come to 90 rupees only. They will not be charging you more. Just whenever you go next time to your shopping mall or a big store, you see if they are charging. 99.9% they will not charge because they cannot calculate or collect any above MRP. Sir, if company is shut down, then why is it necessary to reverse the ITC? I mean, if company is not going to avail the credit on output, why government cares? How is it a loss for the government if the goods can be treated as consumed? Fine, that's a good question. ITC have claimed. Now this ITC belongs to whom? The input tax credit belongs to me. Government cannot touch it because it is my input tax credit. So if I sell the business, this will go wasted. So I've taken the input tax credit. I have taken that much money from the government, kept it in my input tax credit. I'm not given to the government. And when I'm selling it also, government is not getting the input tax credit. Government gave you the credit with the assurance that either you sell it, that time I will get the GST. So I will give you the credit. Now I have given you the credit. It is lying with you and you have liquidated. You have shut down your business. So reverse the ITC so that that much will move away from your input tax credit and come to government's account. So for this purpose, they have to, a vendor or a customer or a taxable person, when he is closing down his business, he has to reverse the input tax credit and move it to the government's account by payment. That's when it will go to the government account. Otherwise, government cannot touch your money. Even though the portal is run by the government, they cannot just take away your input tax credit just like that. It will be going to them by your action. You have to do some action for them to get the benefit of the credit lying in your electronic credit ledger. Clear, Shubham? Sir, if suppliers tires, then supply of goods, correct. Sir, please explain goods or services point. On which aspect? On bus body building? Okay, so what if ITC not reversed in case of closure of business? If ITC is not reversed in case of business, then they will collect ITC to the extent when later on, whenever they find. So there is something called as a annual final return when you have to file for closure of your GST. Okay, so at that point of time, they will see whether you are filing your final return called as ASMT 10. So if it is not filed, then they will raise the notice and they will recover. So it's better that when you have credit itself, you reverse it and pay it to the government. Otherwise, instead of that, if your registration gets cancelled or then you are not able to access your systems, then you may have to pay the fine also from your own money. So even though the amount will be lying in your credit ledger, you will have to pay it in cash. Okay. Now, if there are no more queries, then we can go to bus body building aspect. Okay. So in bus body building, what is goods or services? So in case of a bus body building, I will give the chassis to the bus body building, the base, the tires with the parts, motors and everything. That is the chassis on which the bus fits or on which the compartment fits in. So this bus body building, I will supply to a just chassis, I will supply to a bus body building. When I am supplying him the chassis, if I supply the material of the person from whom you have to buy, you have to not decide on the quality of my compartment. I will tell you the quality of the compartment. You have to only do the fabrication and fitting of the compartment on the chassis, right? You have to only do that specialized labor services. Then it is treated as supply of service. But I will tell him, no, I will only give you chassis. You buy any kind of a bus, or a compartment, but I will tell you the basic specifications, quality and all you decide. Okay. So he is supplying the chassis by supplying the compartment to me with fitting. So that case, it will be treated as supply of goods. Okay. That's the differentiation there. Why is ITC reversed to government? So that the money has to go back to the government. That's the reason ITC is reversed. Fine. Now we'll get into mixed supply. So we understood composite supply. Clear? Now what is mixed supply? Mixed supply also is supply of two aspects, but it is opposite of composite supply. So when there are two supplies and it is not a composite supply, it means it's a mixed supply, right? So two or more individual supplies of goods or services or any combination thereof made in conjunction with each other. So there also we saw they should be in conjunction with each other. Here also it's in conjunction with each other for a single price. It should be for what? It should be for a single price. If it's separate price, then you will charge separately only. But if two or more products are supplied in conjunction with each other for one price, where such supply does not constitute a composite supply. So what are the basic requirements of composite supply? It does not fulfill, but you're charging one price for supplying in conjunction with each other. Such transactions consist of supplies not naturally bundled in the ordinary case, right? Is the meaning of mixed supply. So there should be two supplies, one price getting charged and not constituting a composite supply is a mixed supply, right? And it is, but they're not naturally bundled. There we saw it's a requirement of naturally bundled in case of composite supply. In case of mixed supply, they're not naturally bundled. Means you can sell it separately, but you are mixing it and selling it for whatever reasons. Then it's a mixed supply, and it is taxed at what rate? It is taxed at the highest rate. There we saw what is it taxed at? It taxed at the a rate which is the rate of the principal supply. In case of a mixed supply, it is taxed at the highest rate of the various supplies, right? I am giving a gift hamper of a tie, a belt and a watch. The tie can be sold separately, belt can be sold separately, watch can be sold separately, but I'm mixing it all the three. They are not naturally bundled. Two or more components are there, yes. Single price I'm charging. As a gift hamper, I'm charging at one price of special offer price. So I'm bundling and charging at one price. Is it considered as a composite supply? No, because it is not naturally bundled, artificially bundled it is. So in this case, it's a mixed supply. On the tie, the rate is, the value is the actual, if I do the costing, the tie cost is very costly, 500 rupees. Watch cost, not much, 200 rupees. Belt, 300 rupees. On the tie garments, 5%. On the watch, it is 18%. On the wallet, it is 12%. So will I charge separate rates? No, it's a mixed supply. Will I take the highest rate of the product which is highest, saying tie is 500 rupees. So on tie it is 5%. So I will charge 5% on everything. No. Irrespective of the lowest value watch, which is still 200 rupees, but the rate of the watch is highest at 18%, whichever is higher, it is taxed at highest rate in the various supplies. So if the highest rate is 18%, you will have to tax it. The rate of tax on this mixed supply is 18% for the whole product. Okay, that's how mixed supply is charged. A combo pack of some food material is mixed supply. Yes, it is mixed, as a good example of mixed supply. There's no element of principal supply in case of mixed supply. Yes, all supplies are principals only. If it becomes one principal, then it will fit under the category of composite supply. All the supplies are mixed supply only. All the supply are principal supply. Nothing can be distinguished saying that which is important. Okay. Kavita Lamsal, explain the services provided by way of tolerating non-performance of a contract and its chargeability. I found this question while reading supply. What is this, sir? Very good. So, tolerating or non-performance of a contract. I enter into a contract with you. Now you have done a breach of contract. I said you that you have to supply 500 quantity of rice to me, 500 kgs of rice to me. Now you have not supplied and you are telling that I couldn't supply, I will not supply. So I have to bear the non-performance. Your non-performance, I'm bearing it. For that, I will tell pay me some fine. Pay me some damages for not fulfilling the contract. So that payment is treated as non-performance of the contract. On that also GST will apply. Tolerance. Okay. An employee is there and he is not working properly. So I'm been tolerating him. So I'm telling him to go off before the notice period. That is an act of tolerance, right? On that GST will apply. But since it is employer-employee, it will not come. But otherwise, tolerance of a consultant to tell him to go before the terms is tolerating him, tolerating non-performance. On that also GST will apply. Understood? Composite supply and mixed supply. Okay. So we'll move ahead. In this chapter, what is the amendment which is relevant for you? We have already included, so that strikeout portion, what we show on schedule 2 is gone. That is supply of goods. Supply of goods by an unincorporated association or body of persons to a member thereof for cash, deferred payment, or other valuable consideration was coming under classification under schedule 2. Now it is coming in the main section itself of 71AA. The activities or transactions by a person other than an individual to its members or constituents or vice versa for cash, deferred payment, or other valuable consideration is treated as supply itself. Now, earlier it was classification that they were classifying it as a service, but the question came in that is it a supply itself or no is doubtful. So they put it under the main category of supply itself. So that is the only amendment. The impact is same. The placement is different. Earlier it was in schedule 2. Now it is coming in 7.1 below A as 7.1 double A. Okay. Okay. Now we'll get into understanding this aspect more better through multiple choice questions. In the meantime, if you have questions along with this, also you could let me know. These MCQs, let us go through so that we'll understand this in detail. Mr. A imported interior design services from company X, who is in USA. Mr. A is in India. He's imported some services from company X, USA, on a payment of $50,000 for his house construction in Hyderabad. Is the service treated as supply or no? No, option 1. So let us understand the question. He is engaging the services of a company from USA for his construction services. Construction services, house construction in Hyderabad. So it is his personal house, not an official house, because had it been official house, they would have mentioned used for his business or so. If nothing is mentioned, then you will consider it as his personal house. So is this service treated as supply or no? We understood that for supply, there has to be two things. Supply definitely, and it should be consideration, and it should be in the course of furtherance of business. In this case, there is consideration, but it is not in the course or furtherance of business. So what will be your answer? Will your answer be, is the service treated as supply? No, because import of service is not in the course or furtherance of business. Or no, a second answer would be yes. Second option is yes, because import of service is treated as supply, even if it is not received in the course of furtherance of business. Is it option C, does not cover in the definition of supply itself? Or option B, treated as supply but part of Schedule 3, hence not a supply? Why GST is chargeable on tolerance? Because tolerance also is an act. The act of tolerating for which you're getting consideration is also a supply. That's why GST is chargeable on that also. Late payment fees or charges are also chargeable. Yes, late payment fees and charges are also the example of non-performance, right? Because of the non-performance, you're collecting late payment fees and charges. On that also GST is applicable. Great. Most of you or everybody of you have given a correct answer, which is B, not A. Somebody had said A, saying that no, because import of service, but we learned that no in 7.1B, right? 7.1B says that import of services it should be for a consideration, but not in the whether or not in the course of furtherance of business is liable to GST. So based on that, it is liable to GST. Second question, United Breweries brought an asset on 1st January 2015 and has now made a permanent transfer or disposal of assets without consideration. Is it treated as supply or no? First is yes, it is a sale of asset. So it is treated as supply. Second is yes, since ITC was claimed and sold without consideration, it falls under Schedule 1. Third option is no, since ITC was not claimed. Fourth option was since ITC was not claimed and there is no consideration, so it is not a supply. Awaiting for the answer. A, because they haven't talked about ITC. Okay, that's the option of opinion of one person. Very confused audience. If you are saying A, if you are saying B, if you are saying C, if you are saying D. Mahadev, don't ask me the question. You have to give the reason for your answer. Give any answer, but give the reason. You understood the question? Now I'll also show you when we discuss this aspect in schedule 1, what are the nitty-gritties which we missed out? Permanent, permanent transfer or disposal of assets. That is the line given, but it comes with some conditions. It should be disposal or transfer of business assets. Transfer or disposal must be permanent, and ITC must be availed on those business assets. Okay, ITC must be availed, which means when you are selling it, those assets, ITC must be claimed. So based on these, please let me know whether it will fall under A, B, C, or D. Sir, but it is not for consideration, then how would it be sale? Mahadev, you have missed on important aspect of schedule 1. Schedule 1 is activities without consideration. So even if it is without consideration, it is a supply. Fine, it is a supply. But is it liable to GST or no? 2B, when there is a permanent transfer to business other asset and ITC on it has been availed, then it is a taxable supply. Assumption ITC has been availed. Okay. How did you assume that ITC has been availed? So now you understood the law. You understood schedule 1, right? Now we'll go back to our question. Question, law. Now again going back to the question. Now you see, do you find something which you should grasp from our understanding of chapter 1? And there is a linkage here. Option C, because consideration is not going to make any change, but since they said they used it for business and not as stock, so ITC would not be availed. Used in business means purchase is also treated as used in business, Jeevan. So even anything you use it for your business, you will claim the credit. That's not the correct reasoning. Use of business means credit is claimed. Credit can be claimed if they've used it for business. Only if ITC is availed, then only it can be treated as supply under C. Fine. So how do you conclude? So I've given you a hint here saying that everybody is now thinking in the correct lines that yes, the condition is ITC should be claimed. So they have not given, so will you just assume it or you will have some linkage with chapter 1? Yeah. Darshan, your thinking is now right. So one person has thought, I'm giving much time for this because you have to think. And this is how your multiple choice questions will be in your final exams, that it will be simple question, but somewhere the trick will be there. There is a transfer of ownership B, ITC not claimed. Yeah, Suman, you also thought correctly. Darshan, your answer is also right. But Suman, your option is wrong. And Darshan, you have to give me which option you will tick. Kiran, your assumption is correct, but your basis for that assumption is wrong. Bhumika, ITC will reverse. ITC is not reversed. How do you know it ITC is reversed or no? That is not given at all. So, okay. So let's break out the suspense because we have more multiple choice questions to do. So United Breweries brought an asset on 1st January 2014 and now made a permanent transfer. So if there is a permanent transfer or disposal of assets, if there is no consideration, it will fall under Schedule 1. Schedule 1 says that there has to be permanent transfer of business assets and they should be transfer and should be permanent. Yes, there is a transfer of asset and it is permanent and ITC should have been claimed. Now in this case, ITC is claimed or not is given in this numbers. In this number, it is hidden here, whether ITC is claimed or no. How is it hidden, sir? It is hidden because GST came into force from 1st April 2017. And this asset was brought before 1st April 2017. So definitely they would not have claimed the ITC. So there is no presumption that they have claimed the ITC because before 1st July 2017, there was no ITC claimable under this law. So I think ITC claimed under previous law cannot be considered as ITC claimed under this law. So ITC is not claimed because it is brought before 1st July 2017. So ITC is not claimed. So the answer will be D. Since ITC was not claimed and there is no consideration, it is not treated as not a supply. That Schedule 1 will not come because ITC is not claimed. Clear? Earlier, we did not have ITC. Earlier, we had credit. Under service tax, we had SENVAT credit. Excise also, we had SENVAT credit. Under VAT, we had input credit. But that credit is not the credit what we should claim. Right? That credit they would have claimed. But here, the condition says specifically ITC should have been claimed. Here, ITC is not claimed. So, no GST. Okay. Next question. Goods means every kind of movable property other than money and securities, but includes so and so. The term money used in the definition of the goods, right? Money is here. Now, this definition of money, the term money used in the definition of goods does not include what? It does not include legal tender. It does not include money order or currency that is held for its numismatic value or traveler's check. Read the question properly and then answer. what is the meaning of numismatic value? Numismatic value means a currency is held because of its feature. Okay, because of its value. Now, old coins, old notes is held because it has a value beyond its tender value. Like a 500 rupees note will say on it that this note is valid for rupees 500 only. But if there is some unique number in it, right, and you're holding it, you can sell it for 1,000 rupees also. You're not selling it for 1,000 because the value of the note is 500, because it has some specialized number in it. So you can sell it for any value. So that currency which is held for its numismatic value is called as that currency. Now, this numismatic value currency will not be treated as money, because the definition of money says that any currency which is held for its numismatic value, old coins and things, will not be treated as money. Okay, so it will not be treated as money and exclusion from GST. So it will be exclusion. So the question is whether the term money used in a definition does not include what? Indian legal tender is money. Money order is also money. Traveler's check is also money. But currency that is held for its numismatic value is not money. So the correct answer is C. Okay. Correct. Vintage notes and all. Right. That is correct. Good. Most of you have given correct answer. Mr. X imported professional services in the course of furtherance of his business from his son. Mr. Y from his son, who is Mr. Y, without consideration, who is staying in New York. Is it treated as a supply or no? If you tell no, then you have to give correct answer also, correct reasoning. See, same answer, but reasonings are separate. Shubham Kopade, yes, your answer is right. And reasoning is also right. Schedule 1, para 4. Correct. So people who have said A, it's not A. No, because service received from his son, related party. So related party, no GST, no related party, to GST lagega. On related party, there will be GST. It is because of Schedule 1, para 4, which says that any transaction between related persons, even without consideration, will be liable to GST. So it is treated as deemed supply, even though there is no consideration. Deemed supply means it's not a supply. And because of artificial implication, I'm making it a supply. So Schedule 1 can be, in other words, called as deemed supply. Okay, because it is not generally supply, because no consideration, not for business, no supply. But Schedule 1 says that if you're doing from a related party, right, and if it is scheduled, then you have to pay GST on that. And it is in the course of furtherance of business. Note that point also. It's taken from his son, but in the course of furtherance of his business. So these aspects make it as liable to GST under Schedule 1. Which of the following activities are not treated as supply? Supply of goods between principal and agent without consideration. Supply of services between principal and agent without consideration. First is supply of goods. Second is supply of services. Third is supply of services between an agent and principal with consideration, or all the above. All of the above. Few people are saying it is all of the above. The supply of goods between principal and agent without consideration is a supply. Supply of services is not specified. And if it is with consideration, definitely it will be supply itself. So it can't be C. The question is, which of these are not treated as supply? With consideration means supply. So this is gone. Supply of goods without consideration is what is excluded. Okay. So supply of services. Now this is what is covered under that schedule 1. So supply of services is not covered. That's the reason supply of services between principal and agent without consideration is not treated as supply. Okay. But schedule 1 is saying that only supply of goods. And this is a negative question. So the correct answer is supply of services. Clear? So you have to be careful with where goods is used, where services is used, and what is the question they're trying to ask. Mr. A, publisher, asked Mr. B, who is a proprietor of printing press, to print his scripts as books. Mr. B accepted his proposal and printed the books. While printing, Mr. B used his own papers to print the script. Is this transaction treated as supply of goods or supply of services? Paper is used for printing, therefore treated as supply of goods. Neither supply of goods or services, even though paper is used for printing, supply of printing is the principal supply, therefore treated as supply of service, or it does not fall under supply at all. C, because principal supply is supply of printing of scripts as books. C, because supply of printing is a principal supply. Good. Everybody is given a correct reasoning here. Answer is C. Next, question number 7. Servicing of car includes both supply of goods and supply of services. Fine. At what rate the goods and services are liable to tax if the value of spare parts and labor charges are indicated separately in the invoice? Is that composite supply, principal supply rate will apply, respective rates will apply on goods and services separately, Is it a mixed supply? Highest rate will apply. Average rate of both goods and services will apply. So servicing of cars can be treated as a composite supply, actually, if you see, because you're going to the service station for servicing of your cars, right? Now, in the process of servicing, if he is generally doing the labor service, definitely supply of service. But if some parts is fitted into it, he will give you an option whether should I fit the parts or you will buy it. Okay. So you have an option to buy it and give it to him, or he can do it himself. So parts can be individually bought also. That's why, and in the facts given are that if the value of spare parts and labor are mentioned separately, right? Since it is separately mentioned, the respective rates will apply. So it's not a composite supply, not a mixed supply. But some service center says that no, you have to buy spare parts at our place itself. So in that case, what you will do, they will tell that main service is supply of service and spare parts are to be bought along with it. So it becomes a composite supply. Rate of the service charge will apply. But in this case, there is a bill with separate value of spare parts and labor charges. That's where respective rates will apply. Okay. Few people have called it as composite, but since the fact says that a bill with separate category, they have a separate rate. They're not naturally bundled. Had it been naturally bundled, they would not have mentioned separate value for it. So based on that, I'm saying that respective rates will apply. Mr. A sends goods to Mr. B, who is a job worker, for packing of the goods in a corrugated boxes. That is packaging boxes. Is it treated of supply of goods or supply of services? Very simple question. If the charges are not separately mentioned, then it will be composite supply. Yes, then it will be charges are not separately mentioned, combined together, then it will be composite supply. Yes. Question number 8. Answer is correctly specified for most of the people. Option is B. It is treated as supply of service because job worker is treated as job work, doing the work and giving it back, even though it is on goods. Goods are not belonging to him. On that corrugated box, he's doing something and he is giving back to me. So it is treated as supply of service. A, goods sent to Mr. B. Since goods, so it becomes so very convincing with the answer. Don't go with the answer. Go with the facts and your understanding. Goods sent to Mr. B, therefore it's treated as supply of goods. That's not the logic. That job worker charges are always treated as supply of service because he's doing job worker on the goods. Question number 8, Miss Deepa is applying for bank exam. She's supposed to pay application fees through demand draft. Now she went to bank and she made an application to convert money into demand draft. Bank charges the service fees for converting money into demand draft was charged. Okay, the bank charges this service fees. Is this transaction amounting to supply? Because it is demand draft. Demand draft is transaction money. Since it is transaction money, will it be amounting to supply? Yes or no? So you have two no's, two yes, and with specific reasons. So if you're saying yes, then which yes? If no, which no? Okay, so few people are saying it is A. Few are saying no because money is not included and goes yes. So that's the definitely wrong answer. So A is a wrong answer because we are not talking about money. We are talking about bank charges. The bank is charging something called as service fees for converting money. So is this transaction amounting to supply? Yes, because the consideration charge for conversion of money from one form to another is a service. Therefore, it is a supply of service. So service fees is not money. It's a transaction in money. Okay. Correct answer is B. Under which circumstances donation is not chargeable to GST? Okay. Donation, we had discussed that if you're giving a donation, in the consideration chapter, we had said that when you're giving this donation, when it will be treated as GST. Donation made for commercial person with a quid pro quo form from the donee, donation made for advertisement, donation made for philanthropic purpose, are all of the above. Okay. What is philanthropic? Philanthropic means for charity. Okay, charity purposes, what I do, it's called philanthropy. So donations made philanthropic purposes is not chargeable to GST. In these two cases, where there is a commercial purpose or where this made for advertisement, it will not fall for uh, donation exemption. It will be taxable. So only if it is for philanthropic purpose, then it will be not chargeable to GST. Permanent transfer or disposal of assets without consideration is treated as supply if transfer must be permanent, ITC not availed, ITC is availed, ITC is not availed on such business asset, ITC is availed on such business assets, both A and C. 11 answer is D. Correct. So both transfer must be permanent and ITC should be availed on such business assets. Very nice. Last question for the day. Mr. Rex has obtained 2 registrations in the state of Karnataka. One is establishment A and one is establishment D. Will stock transfer between A and B treated as a supply? Very simple question. A, B, C or D? Twelfth one, answer D. Few people are saying D. Transaction between established B and P does not fall under supply definition. No, we know that there is a distinct person concept. So A is registered in one taken 2 registrations. So A has one separate registration, B and separate registrations. So stock transfer between 2 registered entities, okay, is one person but taken 2 registrations within the state are treated as distinct persons. So it will be yes. So you'll not get so much clarity that they are treated as distinct persons in your exams. You'll just tell yes or no, and with some confusion things. So you have to understand the question and the answer will be yes, which is they are distinct persons, so will be treated as supply. Okay. Thank you very much. Any queries on this chapter as well? Please read through, and Wednesday we'll meet for the charging chapter. That time we will discuss on it.